AOC was asked to comment on the continued battle over whether there's going to be a For the People Act at all. And she's focusing on the exact right part of it, which is this. She's not saying these exact same words, but Joe Manchin is corrupt. You need to get used to hearing it and to saying it, and not just him. All of them are corrupt. In this particular area, the reason that it matters is he is being paid off by his donors to make sure that legislation that he has previously supported, the overwhelming majority of his constituents support, that even Republicans support, does not have a chance of passing, and he's doing it so he'll get paid. She's already pointed that out once. Here she is doing it again.
Well, I think that when we talk about opposition to HR 1 being just about voting rights, we aren't telling the entire story. HR 1 has sweeping lobbying reforms, and I believe that we have the influence of big money that impacts not just one party but both parties in the United States Congress. And I do believe that that old way of politics has absolutely an influence in Joe Manchin's thinking and the way he navigates the body. I mean, the things that he cites, like this I think romanticism of a bipartisanship is about an era of Republicans that simply do not exist anymore. And I also believe that that the opposition to big money and dark money, you have the Koch brothers and associated organizations from the Koch brothers really doing victory laps about Joe Manchin's opposition to the filibuster. I think that it's pretty open that these groups exert a lot of influence, as much influence as they can on members of Congress. And I think that that the older school way of accepting the role of lobbyists in Washington absolutely has a role in Joe Manchin's thinking.
I think that is totally true and needs to become a much more common. Like, how often do you hear any representatives talking about a member of their caucus like that? I mean, the right attacks the right, not necessarily pointing out the lobbyists because they like the lobbyists too, but we need to see more of that on the Democratic side.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny because there's a reason why the right and everyone is so fixated on AOC. It's because she shows leadership, right? Mm-hmm. It's because even though she's not in the Democratic leadership, she speaks like she is. She says things that belong in our political moment, that respond to problems that we all understand are rampant within Washington, like dark money. She's not afraid to call Joe Manchin out by name, right? And meanwhile, other Democrats somehow still hold out hope for him. I guess Pelosi thinks she still believes in Joe Manchin. No, and I think pointing out the dark money, reining in dark money, reining in corporate spending and campaign spending, and that aspect of HR 1 is incredibly crucial. And it's something that a lot of mainstream news outlets have also skimped on and they haven't looked at, because it is far more sweeping than just protecting voting rights. It's actually protecting our democracy in a lot of new ways, in two other ways, in securing elections, right, and having better protections, which I think we all agree we need, and then also getting money out of campaigns. And nobody wants to talk about that because that sort of fingers everybody. Like, that's like pointing the finger at both Democrats and Republicans. Mm-hmm. And AOC is there just waiting, trying to birth a new Democratic Party. And man, if we were smart, we would give her more power.
We would. Yeah, I feel like in the same, well, like one of the reasons that Bernie took off, in early 2015 was because he talked about things in a way that was obviously true and that you never heard politicians talk about.
Yes.
Mainly about like, the millionaires and the billionaires. She does that for so many different issues. And that's why I think that she's so important. You laid out basically everything. The only thing I would add is, and this is more of the, hey, let's pointlessly remind people of history that no longer matters because everyone's moved on from the truth. She's totally right that he is hearkening back to this bygone era of Republicans who are willing to do bipartisan stuff. She's totally right, that doesn't exist anymore. But let's also add, the reason they were doing bipartisan stuff, that stuff wasn't good. Like, they had similar interests in some areas. The interests were not the interests of the working class. So even that era sucked for most Americans, but we don't even have that anymore.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.